Hari, Hari.
So we continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 6, Text 35. Yamadibir Yoga Pate
Yamadipir Yogapati
Yoga Pate
Amaloba Hato Moho
Kamaloba Hato
Muhu
Mukunda Sevaya Yadvat
Mukunda
Mukunda
Sevaya
Sevaya
Yadvat
Yadvat
Dharma Tha Samyate Shamyate.
Tatat
Tatha Madha
Madhana
Nasamyati.
Samyati.
Somebody like to read?
Neetu, would you like to read?
Yeah, sure. I can.
Yeah.
Translation. It is true that by practicing restraint of the senses by the yoga system, one can get relief from the disturbances of desire and lust. But this is not sufficient to give satisfaction to the soul. For this, satisfaction is derived from devotional service to the personality of Godhead. Purport. Yoga aims at controlling the senses by practice of the mystic process of bodily exercise in sitting, thinking, feeling, willing, concentrating, meditating, and at last being merged into transcendence. One can control the sense. The senses are considered like venomous serpents, and the yoga system is just to control them. On the other hand, Narada Muni recommends another method for controlling the senses in the transcendental loving service of Mukunda, the personality of Godhead. By his experience, he says that devotional service to the Lord is more effective and practical than the system of artificially controlling the senses. In the service of the Lord Mukunda, the senses are transcendentally engaged. Thus, there's no chance of their being engaged in sense satisfaction. The senses want some engagement. To check them artificially is no check at all, because as soon as there is some opportunity for enjoyment, the serpent-like senses will certainly take advantage of it. There are many instances in history, just like Vishwamitra Muni falling a victim to the beauty of Menaka. But Thakura Haridasa was allured at midnight by the well-dressed Maya, and still she could not induce that great devotee into her trap.
So sense
The whole
enjoyment.
idea is that without devotional service of the Lord, sorry,
Sorry. Yeah.
should I
So
continue?
how we'll just say how are the senses automatically engaged, controlled in devotional service? Because your Prabhupada is saying, and Narad Muni is also saying that devotional service is easier to control the senses than yoga. So how is it that the senses are automatically controlled in devotional service?
The whole idea is that without devotional service of the Lord, neither the yoga system nor dry philosophical speculation can ever become successful. Pure devotional service of the Lord, without being tinged with fruitative work, mystic yoga, or speculative philosophy, is a foremost procedure to attain self realization. Such pure devotional service is transcendental in nature, and the systems of yoga and jnana are subordinate to such a process. When the transcendental devotional service is mixed with a subordinate process, it is no longer transcendental, but it is called mixed devotional service. Srila Vyāsadeva, the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, will gradually develop all these different systems of transcendental realization in the next.
So the senses are automatically controlled in devotional service because they are engaged in service of Krishna. Eyes to see the Lord, the deity, the tongue to chant the holy name, the tongue to eat the prasad, the ears to hear about his glories. So automatically the senses are controlled. There is no need of any artificial endeavor. to control the senses. Engaging the senses in devotional service is automatic control of the senses. Sarvam tad idam akyatam.
Sarvam tat idam akyatam.
Yat prishtoham tvayanaga.
Yat
Yat
prishtoham
Vyāsadeva
Janma karma rahasyam me.
Janma
Janma
karma
karma
rahasyam
rahasyam
me
me
Bhavataschatma toshanam.
bhavataschat
Bhavatasthratma toshanam. Translation. O Vyasadeva, you are freed from all sins. Thus I have explained my birth and activities for self-realization as you asked. All this will be conducive for your personal satisfaction also. Purport. The process of devotional service, devotional activities from the beginning to the stage of transcendence is all duly explained to satisfy the inquiries of Vyasadeva. Nārada has explained how the seeds of devotional service were sown by transcendental association and how they gradually developed by hearing the sages. The result of such hearing is detachment from worldliness, so much so that even a small boy could receive the death news of his mother, who was his only caretaker, as a blessing of God, and at once he took the opportunity to search out the Lord. A sincere urge for having an interview with the Lord was also granted to him, although it is not possible for anyone to see the Lord with mundane eyes. He also explained how, by execution of pure transcendental service, one can get rid of the fruitive action of accumulated work, and how he transformed his material body into a spiritual one. The spiritual body is alone able to enter the spiritual realm of the Lord, and no one but a pure devotee is eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. All the mysteries of transcendental realization are duly experienced by Narada Muni himself, and therefore, by hearing such an authority, one can have some idea of the results of devotional service, which are hardly delineated even in the original text of the Vedas. In the Vedas and Upanishads, there are only indirect hints to all this. Nothing is directly explained here, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam is the mature fruit of all the Vedic trees of literature.
So even the Vedas don't say that you do this and this is how you can get out of this material world very clearly, like a step by step. But here in Bhagavatam, we are hearing Narad Muni, by his personal example, is saying he associated with the devotees, he served them, and by this, he got a desire to hear from them. He engaged in devotional service, so he got detached. He was able to understand the death of his mother as the mercy of the Lord. He continued to hear and chant the holy name, and he got his spiritual body. His body became spiritual. So he's a living example that devotional service actually works. He's saying that anyone who wants to revive one's spiritual identity, just follow, serve the devotees, associate with the devotees, serve the devotees, hearing and chanting, engage in devotional service. This is what we are hearing. That it really works. Narad Muni say it really works. Sutta Vacha.
Sutta
Sutta
uvacha
Uvacha
Evam Sambhashya Bhagavan.
evam
Evam Sambhasya
sambhasya
Bhagavan
bhagavan
Narado Vasavisutam.
narado
Narado Vasavisutam
vasavisutam
Amantriya Vena Pranaya.
amantrya
Amantriya
veenam ranayam
Vinapranaya
Yaya Yadrichiko Munihe.
yayo
Jayo
yadrichiko
Yadrichika
munihi.
Munihi. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, Thus addressing Vyāsadeva, Srila Narada Muni took leave of him and vibrating on his veena instrument, he left to wander at his free will. Purpose. Every living being is anxious for full freedom because that is his transcendental nature. And this freedom is obtained only through the transcendental service of the Lord. Illusioned by the external energy, everyone thinks that he is free, but actually he is bound up by the laws of nature. Our conditioned soul cannot freely move from one place to another, even on this earth, and what to speak of one planet to another. But a full-fledged free soul, like Narada, always engaged in chanting the Lord's glory, is free to move not only on earth, but also in any part of the universe, as well as in any part of the spiritual sky. We can just imagine the extent and unlimitedness of his freedom, which is as good as that of the Supreme Lord. There is no reason or obligation for his traveling, and no one can stop him from his free movement. Similarly, the transcendental system of devotional service is also free. It may or may not develop in a particular person even after he undergoes all the detailed formulas. Similarly, the association of the devotee is also free. One may be fortunate to have it, or one may not have it even after thousands of endeavors. Therefore, in all spheres of devotional service, freedom is the main pivot. Without freedom, there is no execution of devotional service. The freedom surrendered to the Lord does not mean that the devotee becomes dependent in every respect. To surrender unto the Lord through the transparent medium of the spiritual master is to attain complete freedom of life.
So we are trying to understand that in fact material life is a life which is bound. We are not independent. We are always bound by the material nature. Well, independent, we are always dependent on God. But once one revives one's spiritual identity, one has freedom of how to serve God. Narad Muni has complete freedom. He's going in and out of the material world, just like we are going in and out of one room to another. Like that, Narad Muni is going from one material world to spiritual world. He can travel like that. So he's free because he has a spiritual body. So he's an example that actually there is freedom on the spiritual platform. One can serve the Lord in any way one likes. There's no the modes don't bind him. So we may think, oh, if I surrender to Krishna, in fact, I will become bound up. Like because surrender, you become like you have to surrender to your enemy, so they may take you as a prisoner. But no, in fact, we get freedom when we surrender to Krishna. And Narad Muni is an example of this. Aho Devarishir Dhanyo Yam.
Aho Devashir
Aho
Dhanyo
Devashi
Iti
Dhanyoyam.
Yat Kirtim Sharan Gadhan Vana.
Yat
Yat
Kirtim
Kirtim
Shargat
Sarangat
Dhanvana
Dhanvana.
Gayan Madhyan Idam Tantriyam.
Gayan
Gayan
Madhyan
Yan
Idam
Idam
Tantriya
Tantriya.
Ram Yati Aturam Jagat.
Ramayati
Ramyati
Aturam
Aturam
Jagat.
Jagat. Translation. All glory and success to Srila Narada Muni because he glorifies the activities of the personality of Godhead, and so doing he himself takes pleasure and also enlivens all the distressed souls of the universe. Purport. Sri Narada Muni plays on his instrument to glorify the transcendental activities of the Lord and to give relief to all miserable living entities of the universe. No one is happy here within the universe, and what is felt as happiness is Maya's illusion. The illusory energy of the Lord is so strong that even the hog who lives on filthy stool feels happy. No one can be truly happy within the material world. Srila Narada Muni, in order to enlighten the miserable inhabitants, wanders everywhere. His mission is to get them back home, back to Godhead. That is the mission of all genuine devotees of the Lord, following the footsteps of that great sage. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the first canto, sixth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Conversation between Narada and Vyasa.
So the illusion of this material world is so strong that although we are under abominable conditions, we still think we are enjoying. Yeah, like we are spirit souls. We should not be in a material body, but yet we are taking great pleasure in being in a material body. So we don't even understand what we are going through. And all this the illusion can be gone simply by engaging in devotional service. So Narad Muni is gone, and now, so Shaunak, I'll just read quickly not the purpose, just what happens. That Shaunak Muni asked, "O Sutta, now that Narad Muni left, what did Vyasadeva do?" So Vyasadeva, he was there sitting at Badrikashram, no, in the river, by the river Saraswati. He engaged in devotional service. And because he was perfectly engaged in devotional service, he saw Krishna and he saw Maya Devi next to her. And Maya Devi fully under his control. He saw the absolute personality along with Maya Devi. And this is the external energy by which we are suffering. She binds us. And we think that we are matter. So Vyasadeva, by engaging in devotional service, could see Krishna. He saw Maya next to Krishna. He could see that Maya is Krishna's servant. And he could understand that we are suffering in the material world because of Maya, not understanding it. And so then he wrote this Bhagavatam simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature. The feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. So he could understand that everyone is suffering, and everyone's suffering can be gone simply by hearing about Bhagavatam. And then, so he wrote the Bhagavatam and he taught to his own son, Sukadev Goswami. And then, of course, Sonak Rishi asked that Sukadev Goswami was liberated. Why did he want to study Bhagavatam if he was already liberated? So then comes this famous Atmaram verse that even though a person is liberated, when he hears the glories of the Lord, he experiences deeper happiness, deeper pleasure. So the Lord even attracts the heart of the Atmarams, those who are Brahman realized, those who understand I'm spirit soul. When they also hear the glories of the Lord, even they get attracted. So Sukadev Goswami was such a great liberated person, and he also studied Bhagavatam, such as the nature of Bhagavatam, that it attracts everyone's heart, it takes everyone's miseries away. And if one truly wants to be peaceful in life, everyone is recommended to regularly hear Bhagavatam, serve Bhagavat, and remain peaceful, and at the end of life, go back home, back to Godhead. So we'll stop here. Did you have any comments or anything? Well, thank you so much for listening and joining in. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.